probably need to be talking about too.
Great, that's what I figured, that's why I just kind of, I was like, you know what, areas for discussion, and then I figured you'd have things.
I got a list.
I figured that.
Yes, that's my,
Yeah.
I didn't want to sign on purple.
Yeah, see, I did. Are we all parking here with the bargaining?
Yes.
And you got one of these? Sure.
We're sure.
Okay.
So I know already still on. So they won't know.
Cut people's numbers.
I think they're all the same.
Yeah. No, that was it.
Yeah, I think they came from both sides.
Yeah. No, I don't, I think Stuart sent those around, oh, for us to continue going that way. Yeah.
Did you guys get this one?
Yep.
Yeah, everybody.
So this is all.
Not particularly.
Are you ready?
LCEA Bargaining, July 10, 2019, begin at 3:03.
Welcome everybody, just to the, district office. Stuart, if you want to go ahead and open up, feel free.
All right, I'm, got a list there. One of the first things I think we need to talk about, the school board recently passed a policy dealing with surveillance cameras. And that's all well and good, but use of surveillance cameras is a mandatory bargaining item as defined by both PERC and the National Labor Relations Board. So I'm passing out some court cases and PERC and NLRB and a lawyer's interpretation. So I think that is one of the areas that we probably need to be talking about. The way the policy was written, the areas that kind of concern me is that it says that the superintendent can decide the placement of the cameras, and there's no limitation on that, even though she assures me that it won't be placed in classrooms. Then the other issue becomes we have public areas that are used as de facto classrooms. Gyms, auditorium, media centers, they're also used for testing that have surveillance cameras in them. So, and then the other aspect is we know from past experience, no one at this room, that there have been principals who have tapped into video cameras, surveillance cameras, and as a aha, you were not at your duty station, you left 1 minute early.
Yeah.
And it's not an isolated incident, it's done a lot. There have been discipline investigations that relied heavily on video surveillance cameras as evidence against the teacher. So I think that this is an area that needs to be discussed. We need to look at what kind of language we need to look at for contract. So that's the first item. We do know that health insurance is an issue. Another issue that's, we know best and brightest, I'm glad to see you got some stuff here. We can discuss that. We also, Dorinda, I know the whole idea with elementary substitutes was that elementary teachers would do something for teachers. That didn't always happen. So we do know for middle and high school, we have some incentives built in for paying that for that planning period. We do know that there's a cost of substitute that's being saved. We have some parents here of elementary students who is the idea of doubling up what's best for the student and for the, and I know it's what's best for the administration and maybe even what's best for the teachers in the short run, but we need to do something because for that teacher, they're taking on extra work and responsibilities. And at that, I'm going to kind of, and then I know at some point we need to talk about team evaluation. Reading endorsement seems to be a big issue. I know the state is requiring the county to have certain teachers reading endorsed. And I also know in the contract, if it's mandatory professional development, it's a $20 per hour reimbursement, which for a 300-hour reading endorsement would be about, you do the math, at least $3,000.
Mandatory from the state or mandatory from the district?
The contract doesn't say one way or the other. And I'm looking at it as it's kind of one of those unfunded mandates. The school system's required to comply, not the teacher. So the school system needs the reading endorsements. The teacher can say, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go somewhere else and teach. Take my license and whatever.
A different state? Because this is a statewide.
I'm just saying.
Well, it's not as simple as just.
But it's basically an unfunded mandate.
That I agree with.
So, I mean, the contract does say $20 an hour and for professional development. So you can argue the state requires it, the county requires it. The contract just says $20 per hour.
Stuart, where did that come from, the unfunded mandate? That would be legislature, right?
That's
So a statute?
Yep.
Legislator.
Okay. Do you know off the top of your head, and you may need to look at it, there are those of us that aren't reading certified, but we took the content area version, which was CAR PD. Do we get to count those in our count?
Mainly the 300 hours is for third grade students who've been retained or folks who are level 1 and 2 at the elementary level, from what I understand.
And intensive reading.
And intensive reading.
So it's less
More
a
elementary.
total in a district as much as it is, let's take a poll of your third
Exactly.
grade, blah, 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 and are they? Okay.
So some counties have negotiated stipends, some are paying the $20 an hour. We know there's a lot of things going on, and so yes, the state does require it of the school system.
And that is for this year?
1920,
Okay. That's what I
from what I
thought.
understand,
Okay.
or is it 2021?
I believe it's 2022.
I think
2021.
it's 2021. I believe they want everybody to start it, and as long as you're starting it, you're still okay along the way. Although, like for this summer, I know that they wanted teachers for the summer programs to be having the reading endorsement, and a lot of teachers don't already have the reading endorsement.
Next year.
I got mine a long time ago, but.
Next year it's a requirement for summer reading camp.
Yeah.
Right. And I know it was just like suggested, but I think most of them were actually reading endorsed that did the camps.
What I would propose is that we have Ms. Cockroft come in, because she is the one that's heading that up for the district, and that way we can be fully informed from the district perspective. Of course, I'm going to discuss it with her, but I feel like it's fair to everyone if she comes in and spends a few minutes with us to at least give us a full perspective. Sound good to you?
Well, and we've discussed it with her already and let her know that in the contract, it does say $20 per hour. And her argument is it's required by the state, so we don't have to pay that. And I'm saying the contract doesn't differentiate. And it's an unfunded mandate, so talk to your legislators.
So is the approach that this is part of their certificate and
It's added on.
It's an add-on. It's an add-on because even somebody that has an elementary degree that's 1.6, K6, a primary, whatever they have, you still have to have an ESOL endorsement. You still have to have a reading endorsement. I have both of them. I also have gifted endorsement. And gifted's another one. So it's like you have all these different endorsements that you can add on to your. You add on to them and you pay $75 to add it on to your certification also every time you do that. Now, when you renew, then it's just the $75 for however many you have. But each time you add on, it's another $75 that a teacher has to.
Now, the difference is, like with ESE, that's a state fund or a state requirement for teacher certification. This law is for the school. Anyone who teaches the identified pupils has to be reading endorsed. So it's a mandate to the school systems, not on the individual teacher.
okay, well, we'll do some more.
But if during the school day, like on Wednesday afternoons and that kind of stuff, when we normally have our PD for an hour or so and teachers are still under contract, then they're still getting paid.
So that's one way of doing it,
Right.
yes. And that's
And then our PD day in January.
And that's one way of doing it. Then you've also got, I hear, a mandatory 6-hour mental health training that's going to take up one of the PD days. We also know the contract says on work days, only half of the work day can be encumbered through meetings or trainings. So, and I've heard people say, well, they can do it online on their own time. Well, there again.
No.
So I think that's worthy of discussion.
Yeah.
So yeah, doing it at school, that's fine, as long as it's not during their plan period.
Correct.
And I think that's a good way of looking at it, if it's possible.
I'm really interested in hearing the other districts that don't offer it free to their teachers, what they're doing.
I know one teacher district I talked to, they just pay a $3,000 stipend when it's completed.
I've heard the differences all over around.
Yeah.
I can't say this is fact, I heard Palm Beach is actually requiring the teachers to get that issue. That's,
But they're again,
yeah.
they have some other issues with their payroll
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
and their inputs,
And it's a lot of
work.
Yeah.
Because it's again, it's 300 hours. Like you've got 6 classes that are 50 and 60 hours apiece.
Even the car PD was a lot of work. It took,
Okay, 6,000.
took almost a year to get it done.
So somebody
We did
did
it that way.
6,000,
We did it in
somebody did a flat
Wednesday
stipend.
after school training, so we wouldn't have to pay.
Palm Beach, I can tell you right now, they're driven in money, so
Yeah.
they're throwing money in every
If they're
direction.
driven to money, they didn't give teacher raises.
They've handed out a lot of money though, I can tell you that. I don't know what strings are attached to it, but I know with their referendum, they spent cash.
Are you thinking Miami-Dade?
Miami-Dade, theirs is definitely for operations, but
Yeah.
Palm Beach, same.
So,
Okay.
those are areas we need to talk. At least that's, and there might be some other items on the list if anyone has any questions. I can talk about that. The whole issue of compression of salaries, that's been an issue in Lake County for the last 3 years. There have been newspaper articles written. There have been promises made that it's going to be fixed. Yet every year we don't have the money to fix it. So I put it on the list of, is there something we need to look at?
Well, I'm not sure you're properly representing that. I mean, I think we've all sat in this room and we've gone over the list of things we do to try and address, whether it's lifting the cap off of the grandfather schedule or, there's a number of things that we've talked about and worked towards. And that's, I don't think has not been ignored by anybody. Whether it's an unfunded mandate or salary compression issues or performance pay, all that it's going to relate to what available funding there is and where our priorities are to direct that funding. So I've got some things listed here. Budget update. My initial thought was to bring the CFO in, bring Scott in, and let him present to us today. And then I kind of shifted gears on that because if you had the opportunity to enjoy our last workshop on budget, it wasn't always wasn't the greatest news in the world, but there's still work to be done on the budget for folks that have not seen it. And if you're not familiar with the trim calendar, basically that's the budgetary calendar that sets the dates that we have to abide by the state. And what he did was a workshop on preliminary budget, was kind of laying the framework, but that's not necessarily part of the trim process. When the tentative budget is due at the end of the month, that's when that tentative budget is more of a true blueprint of the direction that we're headed. So within that, within the discussion at the workshop the other day, there were discussions of trying to build some things in for salary, but also focusing on increasing our fund balance, which was quoted as being close to the 3% still. So there was a lot of discussion around those competing interests. So I felt like we might hear more of the same. That Scott came in today. He's going around to different municipalities and different community areas and trying to emphasize across the community and explain to them how our schools are funded here in the state of Florida. So hopefully to answer some of the questions out in the community. So when you guys are discussing openly the difficulties that teachers face, that people, they understand it and they understand that the problem is real. And the key to it is going to be talking with our legislature and getting them to properly fund education the right way. So that's what he's out and about doing. I can tell you, next Tuesday he'll be at the county commissioner meeting. He's presenting there on school funding and hopefully educate our other folks that are powers that be in the community on exactly how big of an impact the education system has on the community, and how by far how much we are the largest and biggest source of employment in the county. So and also some impact on economic development in the community. So from a global perspective, he's trying to spread that word. So but in the background, he is working on budget. He's still prying and looking. I know we've got senior staff meetings to go back through next week and rip some more and look and see what we can discover to make some leeway in the budget. But I felt like today, looking at what's available, I wanted to talk about best and brightest and really establish that. Obviously it's high up on both our lists here. We were essentially, if you look at the sheet that just went out, our appropriation was $4.2 million for that. And, you know, of course, there's all kinds of strings attached, and as you guys know, you can probably draw some pretty strong emphasis on why this was rolled into a specific bucket that has strings attached with the word bonus connect to it, right? So we know bonuses do not go towards retirement, and that's, you know, that's something that, you know, the legislature chose to do, but nothing like the legislature to bring us together, right? So I feel like we don't, and so you guys know, like in January and in the past version of Best and Brightest, we had to wait to draw down that amount around January and then process it and distribute it. Where this is rolled into the FEFP, and as soon as we have school grades and as soon as we have teacher evaluations finalized, we can move towards getting this money to people ASAP. So I feel like that should probably be a common goal of ours, so we don't have people waiting on this. It's probably, I think we could, I'm setting a goal of trying to begin processing by September. If we can get the work done to outline how we see this rolling out. For those of you, I kind of created a cheat sheet based off of, because they still haven't, the new statutes aren't up yet. Sorry, a couple days, I don't know what they're waiting on. But this is the language that came from Senate Bill 7070 that lays out the new Best and Brightest, and it's the same stuff that you guys are seeing from FBA, that we're seeing from FAS and FSBA. So they've laid out some things that are pretty interesting. If you see some underlines and highlights in here, the recruitment piece, from what I'm hearing from districts, is it's a one-time recruitment award of up to is the key words there, because if, you know, I think I can tell you from a district perspective, and I want to get you guys feedback as we go through this, but the freedom to get the most amount of dollars to the widest variety of people that are on instructional contracts is getting the most amount of money into that recognition bucket. So if you look at our recruitment amount, you see last year approximately 200 teachers would have qualified for that, but if you would have gone $4,000 a pop, that's going to be a pretty strong dig into the 4.2 million. So I've heard, I haven't seen in black and white, but I've heard some different perspectives that are coming from districts, so they're definitely using the up to on that. And some of them, the only figure I've heard is $1,000 was put out there on the up to. So I don't know, that's something that we collectively as a group probably need to talk about that, because that's going to drive a decent chunk there. When you get in now to the retention and the principal, there's some similar stipulations that rest on these, in that you're looking at 3 years of data where you had to have an average of 3%. If you go through and use last year's data without the new data rolling in, we were probably around 18 schools, and I can tell you though, a lot of that 2016 data were big jumps at some of those schools, and you're going to see, if you look at our school data and when the school grades come out this year, there's a lot of plateaued schools. So a lot of those big point gains are going to fall off, which is going to lower their 3-year average and disqualify them from the retention and from the principal amount. On the principal one, if you throw in an additional factor of you have new principals at some of the schools that are going to qualify also, and they changed it from 2 years to 4 years, you got to be at that disqualifies. I'm not even sure if we'll have a single principal that qualifies for that. So we'll have to look at that new data when it comes out. I've heard that perhaps when school grade comes out, that DOE might identify what those schools are, because I could see it being a mess if there's 67 different interpretations, but sometimes they like it messy, so, so
I think they even said as negotiated.
we'll see. So, well, it's the, I don't think it's, somehow there's gonna have to be a benchmark of how that average of the 3 years rolls out. I think if people get too squirmy on trying to be too conservative with that or too loose with it, it's gonna get pretty fast. But again, that's one of those areas that it's constricted by a lot of those factors, and it's gonna reduce the pot that you could get down to that recognition bucket. So, then when you,
Chad, I think it just may be missing a word for my understanding. Retention. To be eligible for the retention award, a classroom teacher must have been rated highly effective or effective the preceding year. Got it. Teach in the school 2 consecutive years, including the current year. Got it. And their school must have improved?
yes.
Okay, so Lake Mineola has missed the A grade by 1 point. We've gotten, I think it's 61 versus 62. So we would need to get 65, right? Like if it's 62, we need to get 65 score in order for our teachers to qualify for
A
this.
3% increase.
Well, no, 3 percentage points, that's key.
Okay.
Because you can't do a percent of a percent.
You're looking at 1 year sets of baseline, then you have a year 2, and you take the points of growth to year 2, and then year 2 to year 3, and you have points of growth here, and then you have, those are your points, and if you put them together and average them, then it needs to average 3 years, or 3 percentage points in order to reach that. So trust me, I had to look at that on the spreadsheet, and so that helps.
We need more than 3 points, because we've averaged out for 2 years. So, and that's tough.
So even if you have a high
It's
achievement,
not benchmark.
Oh, it's a very high bet. Your school has to improve.
And that was
It's like
the-
A money. It's like great, A money we used to get, or you get, I don't remember. Thank you.
so, and that's, I think we run the risk of being scrutinized on how we work all this out, of course, from the state level once we work it out. I'm sure somebody will come back and say, well, that wasn't the intent of this. But you know what? If we're working within language that they produce, then we're working within language that they produce, right? So, and you'll notice the content expert up in the recruitment area, that's something that people were like, okay, well, what does that mean? So I think probably being certified in that area by the state establish you as a content
Well,
expert.
don't we already have a list of critical shortage areas?
We do have, there is a list of critical
Yeah.
shortage areas, but it doesn't, these are included in those, but it doesn't exactly mirror it. So these are the ones they establish these specific areas in this statute, but then in the critical shortage areas, DOE usually announces a list, and then you have freedom within your district to expand that list if you choose to.
Yeah.
Like, for example, my perception is calculus is a critical shortage. But as I'm reading this, and I'm not holding anybody to it, I understand this, just the worksheet, mathematics, we have, Lake Mineola's replacing 5 math teachers. So in theory, whatever number and whatever criteria we decide, they're going to possibly qualify for that. And I can see where that money can go very quickly.
Yeah, whatever number that is, they qualify. If they're teaching mathematics, they're going to qualify for whatever that number is.
So it's a much broader than the critical area, which is nice, but again, we need criteria because that'll go fast.
Well, and
Can I comment on that too? I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
That would also be a little different in elementary because we're K-6. So what is a content expert? And then would you be willing to give more if they come in with a K-6 certification and a reading endorsement and an ESOL endorsement? So would there be multiple levels, or is it just you have K-6 and you're just getting the X amount of dollars?
I would say, because my interpretation, I don't see that they could cut out elementary school teachers. I mean, if elementary school teachers teaching math and science,
Sure.
then therefore they're a content area expert. Yeah.
But I think my point is, yes, we, at K-6 certification, we're all content experts. But I would argue that someone coming in with a reading endorsement on top of that has even more experience or more content knowledge. Maybe they should be awarded additional funds.
And I would like a Algebra 1 teacher who's got 5 years experience versus an Algebra 1 teacher who has 1 year experience.
But this is only for.
No, but what I'm hearing is we can put forth a recommendation as to how it should, 5 years experience, made that up, is the $4,000. Want to get that and keep that person. 1 year experience right out of college.
But that's not going to apply for the specific guidelines of this. That can be done outside of this if that's a priority and there's funding there. But as far as the recruitment, they've got strict guidelines on what we can do this with.
I mean, the other thing is, and you talk about 4.2, big money attached to this. In other new money, there was an increase in base student allocation of $75 per student. Because I know our lobbyists work on it with Palm Beach, Orange, and Miami-Dade. So we got that increase, which for us is about 3.15 million. So that's additional new money that's unencumbered to any particular area too, because it's with base student allocation.
Gotcha. And that's what I've asked Scott to come in and talk about that also. So that's part of this presentation. But for best and brightest purpose.
Isn't there also lapsed money? What I hear him say, 13 million in lapsed funds.
He said that they budgeted half of the amount of laps that they did last year. But with that, as far as, I want him to come in to answer those questions. And that way, I don't want to misspeak from what he presented in the workshop the other day. That's why I think he'll provide some explanation on the BSA and anything that has to do with labs. As far as best and brightest, that's why I truly want to focus on this money, because this is money that's going to be readily available first. And where we might be working out issues and continuing to negotiate on with performance pay and other compensation, to me, this is something that we don't need stuff sitting around in the pot. And if you'll notice, so content area expert, if we want to be, as far as I'm concerned, we want to be as open as possible to how we establish those. And recruitment's great, because we've got to fill vacancies, but retention, we got to keep the folks we've got, and we've got to aim those dollars in the right spot. And to me, you're going to get more retention off of the recognition section than you are all the strings attached in the retention section that they've got. And another thing that I do like is that you notice it changes from classroom to instructional, because that's the conversations that were had all over, is that the last version of Best and Brightest was very divisive, in that there were instructional employees that were excluded from the money because of where and how they were defined in statute. So they opened it up to the A through E, which introduced a whole new caveat in that it also now includes teacher assistants. So we've got, it moves into an area, it's great, they brought in, it's more inclusive than what it was. So if you look at statute, I believe it's E and A through E on defined instructional personnel as teachers assistants. So that'll be another interesting caveat there. And I can tell you from a district perspective, when they talk about one of the requirements that has to be in there is they have to be highly effective or effective. you know what, just from my perspective, I'm not really interested in, you know, we separate that money and separate, you know, I don't, if we can approach this as a whole, as treating the effective the same as the highly effective with this best and brightest money.
Like the retention money,
Well, I'm saying on the recognition money.
the recognition. Yeah,
I don't know what you guys' thoughts are.
what concerns me is selected by principal.
Well, here's, I can tell you that we're, and no disrespect to my fellow principals that are in the room, but that, it's gonna be there's not gonna be much wiggle room once the policy is adopted by the district for a principal to exclude anyone that's effective or highly effective. Or we're not gonna play that. So, because that was something, because I thought about it, trying to read it through everybody's
Because it's gonna
eyes.
get real divisive.
And even as a principal, I'm like, I'll be like, ooh, yeah, you better get some Tire Kingdom money. I'm like, why would, I mean, but it's so amazing how divisive language is interwoven through this wonderful legislation. But,
That's the intent.
yeah, so I said, they're gonna bring us together. So, I would not, my initial opinion, and the opinion I shared with the superintendent, and that she seemed to agree with, was that if we come up with an amount for recognition, that same amount should be for a teacher who's effective or highly effective. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I'd like to see how that plays out, or what it
Okay.
looks like on paper, yeah.
Okay. So I got my data folks, they're hopping and processing and trying to get everything pulled together so we can really take a look at who is truly eligible, what our new hires look like, and how much the recruitment area is going to take up, because I think we can't set an amount on that until we see the number we're dealing with. But I want y'all at least have a general idea of 200 teachers, because it probably won't be that much different that qualified for that this year.
Where did that number come from?
That was one that BJ applied to, trying to remember what all he used as criteria on his spreadsheet. Is basically, BJ pulled that from our Skyward data on employees of who would have qualified for it last year. And I can show you the breakout in detail when we have the new information in. So for each one of these areas, there'll be a breakout with an explanation as soon as we have the data available to fill that.
Could you answer a question?
Sure.
And I'm sorry if somebody's already said this and I didn't hear it because of my hearing aids, but under the recruitment, I'm still confused as to the words established by the department. Do you have in this county a science department that's county-based?
They're talking about Department of Education.
Okay, so this has nothing to do with like a school-based department? Gotcha.
Which is more weird, you know, wait on that white paper, you know what I mean, and see when that ever comes.
Oh, we'll get that in February.
Yeah, it'd be nice if they, after you've made a decision and they want to thump you for doing it the way that you thought they intended.
But then also, the school district, we have the right to look at some critical shortage content areas as well, and add to that list, right?
Yes, and I didn't put it on this list because we had so much to probably discuss, but the critical shortage, MOUs, any other MOUs that we have that stipends are connected to, whether it be the DNF schools or the Title I schools, and then that'll lead us into our next conversation, our lowest 300. We've joined that club again. So any of those MOUs that connected with the families. But just beyond safety, I want to make sure there's safety concerns are there, and that everybody's looking out for everybody. So I'll get you more information on the UNICEF grant as soon as I want to go back, and I'm trying to get the webinar so I can go through it. And I know they got me a PowerPoint about an hour ago, so I'm going to go through the PowerPoint and I'll send that to you guys so you can take a look at it. Because what a great opportunity if we can pump those dollars in there. Health insurance, last time we looked at health insurance. You know, we've gone through committee, the recommendation went to the board. We talked in our last bargaining session about it. We caucused and then came to a not real thrill agreement that we would move forward.
I think we're going to give me some numbers of what it would look out if we stayed the same.
But it was like a 47% increase. But when you came out of caucus, your words were, well, we've come to agreement on that. So, and there's honestly, I've got an MOU today that it's a little hard. I don't like how we've necessarily presented and whether it be MOU or contract insurance in the past. So what I laid out in the MOU, I only have 2 copies, but it basically it shows the rates and clear contributions from the, it shows the rates and the clear contributions of what folks are experiencing in a per pay period. And then also on page 2 are the side-by-side design changes that they've experienced. I will say, if you went on for open enrollment this time around, Benefits has done a good job of tuning up. It's not as confusing anymore. You can go in and it's very user-friendly to discover, okay, what exactly are my benefits and what does all this mean and what are my options? So I've been pretty impressed with that. If you have a chance, go and check out the health insurance portion of our benefits website. Oh, it says for SEIU at the bottom, I'm sorry. We'll have to scratch that and get a copy. So this is, there was no need to put last year and this year because there's no increase as far as the premiums go. All the changes were in the current design. And probably won't be too long before we start sitting down with insurance committee again. As much as we hate to look at it, we need to keep looking at it regularly. So I know that Mr. Ward, in all his spare time, he's also taking a look at possibly what some options are, and he and I are setting up some meetings for in a few weeks so we can get some additional expertise looking at it that are outside us, that are not connected with any of care here or anybody like that. So.
Okay, quick question.
Yes.
I'm looking at inpatient hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Deductible, then 20%. So after the deductible's met, is the policy only paying 20% and then the employee paying 80, or are they paying 20%?
Now you pay your deductible, then you're responsible for 20%.
Okay. So that would mean that for my heart attack, I would have to pay $20,000.
Wow.
But when teachers'
Yeah, you got to max out of pocket.
Well, that's the deductible.
No, your max out of pocket is for all things.
Okay.
it's a one-time, well, if you have a heart attack, hopefully it's a one-time.
Never know.
Let's hope.
Remember where I work. So, okay. So we need to let people know. Okay.
We'll, I'll get, I'll change the bottom signage line, I'll put SEIU on there on accident. Says LCEA on top. So, can you sign for Kim? She's out of town.
No one would recognize my signature anyway.
So, we can go ahead and get that done, so it's in the hopper. And September 1st is when everything, comes into play.
Do we need a caucus, just check base, or we good with this?
I would like to take a look at what you were looking at.
Okay. So we'll need to do a caucus before any signatures.
Okay, I'm gonna go I'll get the freshman and the document for full copies. Break it.
Talk about reading enforcement. And maybe we can talk about elementary substitutes and what can be done.
Yes, sir.
That might be a good way to wrap up today and schedule a new meeting so we can bring in other things. Karina. Now, talk to me what you do and how your teachers are, and then we can look at any of the other elementary teachers who are here, what they do and problems.
Normally, if somebody on their team, if they take over any of their classes, they can leave early at the end of the day. I'll let them decide however they want to handle it. Leaving early on one of the work days, we've done treats, whatever it is that they necessarily, and each grade level is different as to what they would prefer to do. So it's a hodgepodge, depending on whatever the team. I have the grade level chairs, kind of get with their teams, let me know if this happens, what y'all would like to see done.
I know some schools just don't do anything and expect folks to just absorb.
You know, that's not normally the way. And they, like I said, some would prefer to leave like on that Wednesday following, if that's what they need to do, and the team just leaves at the end of, when their students are gone that day and they're excused from whatever we had planned.
Well, and I'm gonna say it, but that's an hour when they've had kids all day long.
Yeah.
I
So, I mean,
our
that's
last
not-
lessons don't even come until like.
That's not a comparable.
That doesn't work.
You're talking about taking 3 extra kids. Depends on how big your team
It
is.
depends,
It
yeah.
depends. I mean, I have a team no less than
Depends.
8 or 9 on a team. So if somebody leaves, they have 18 kids, it's maybe 2 extra kids they have in the room.
Some schools,
2 to 3.
do that quite often.
And then we've had entire classes being sucked into another class. So a teacher had 30 kids.
And, I'm not sure that's the most prime
And that becomes
teaching
a problem.
environment. I mean, I'm sure emergencies happen, but I'm just saying, if it's normally the case where a teacher has to leave and a sub can't get in, and they're going to dispense around amongst the grade level, mostly, I would say no more than 3 kids in a class, extra.
Terry, how did you guys handle that?
Pretty much, we work really, it affects the higher grade levels, but 3rd grade, and we don't have any problem with it because we do so much collaboration with one another that we just end up doing an activity, so we make it work. It's not really that bad, nobody really complains about it that much, but then in the lower grades, when you have all the kindergarten kids all in one class, they're like, oh, my day's ruined. Or if they're changing classes in 5th grade, then that's kind of a problem, because it's just kind of, you're just a person wasting it. But I'm sure it'll be different, and I'm sure it'll be great this year. I have no problem with anything that's happening.
Is that
so far.
due more to not getting subs in elementary school or just?
Well, we are,
every day?
it's really hard to get subs. You want to drive out there and see how far it is?
No, I've been out there. I've been out there.
You know it is.
I know, it's a long.
And it's a lot of schools, it's hard to get subs.
And I think we
And
will.
sometimes you don't know from the teacher until boom, that day. We know in advance, then anything can be worked out if we know long enough ahead.
And a lot of times, the last minute absences or people getting sick last minute, they tend to get back on getting subs. And there's some schools that just have trouble getting subs altogether. And then you'll have some schools that do not have trouble getting subs, but then they have the highest number of absences. So we've got a multifaceted issue that goes on here. We've got, and don't mean this in a negative way whatsoever, but we've got teacher attendance that is an issue. And then we've got a lot of people, and we're constantly processing new subs, but we've got some schools that sponge up a lot of subs, and they use a tremendous amount of them. So, looking at what we can do, I'd like, as we're looking at, how can we, make sure that they're being incentivized somehow for the absorption issue, how do we look at, get some ideas out on how do we incentivize teacher attendance,
How much, when you're talking about teacher attendance, what kind of numbers are we talking about?
I can't quote numbers right off the top of my head. I can bring numbers though.
What'd you say?
I said in May, it's horrible.
Yeah.
Everybody wants time off the same day and it's the last day.
Well, but being an AC teacher does not, I mean, I'm sorry, but legislature, they've done it.
That's true.
I mean, you're an AC person, and if you know you're gonna leave, I'm gonna take my days because I don't get reimbursed for them, I get nothing for them.
And you're not getting.
So think about that person themselves.
Well, right, but if they do get signed for the next year, they do carry over.
Correct.
So,
But it's not just those teachers.
No,
Oh, I know.
Some
There's a
teachers.
lot of Friday-itis. Oh, I know.
Yes.
And so I mean, I think there's a lot of different issues that cause things. So if we can just, as we move through the process this time, thinking about, okay, what are some creative ways that we can
I know.
incentivize?
what about having a bonus if you're there every day?
Well, we've got, how you work that out, I'm not sure, but I think that's definitely an idea. What does that look like? And some districts, what I've found, there's a couple of them I'm looking at, like Alachua, and then I've heard Volusia does, I haven't found the documents yet, but they do some buyback at the end of the year. So that for teachers at the end of the year, if they've retained X amount of days, the way Alachua reads, if you've retained X amount of days, and within that, X amount of those days are personal days that have been held, then they'll buy them back at a certain percentage rate. So you leave with a check at the end of the year to buy back some of those.
That would be a really good incentive.
So we're working on that because it would be powerful. It'd be powerful not just with instructional, but with bus drivers and other folks too.
I know Lake County at one point did a $500.
Yeah. Yes.
If you were not absent for a semester, you got an extra $500 bonus.
I don't think it ended up being that much, because then a lot of people didn't.
Because everybody behaved
did.
themselves
So that, but it was like up to whatever it was. Yeah, it was, that was part of that adjunct program.
Well, depending on the statute, the actual wording, maybe you can use some of the recommendations.
So it's different.
Money for that. I mean, it's like, okay, that you've got the perfect attendance, but you also have to be effective and highly effective. As in, if you're perfect attendance and you need improvement, I don't care as much, So maybe there's a way of tapping into some of these dollars. But again, and Fader, can you send this out with the statute numbers? So I can look up and kind of get into the words and see what, this way we don't waste time going over, we can't do
No,
that.
I've got tons of that supporting documentation, and I was like, man, if I would, because I started maybe putting in a Google share drive with hot links in it that can get you where you need to go. So yes, I'll put that in. I've got it ready to put the links in it.
That'd be helpful.
Just let you know, we're not on this Google stuff.
I got you. So, but regardless, I'll put
We
it.
can't, because it's
We have our
internet. We can't do your Google stuff.
Okay.
But you can
fine.
send it to them on our email.
No, you can email, I'll send you an email with
Yeah.
the links in them. and,
Yeah, you can do that,
Yes.
but we can't access the internet, intranet.
Oh, that I understand.
I'm not even sure the internet
That
exists anymore.
That wouldn't work.
I'm not even sure that exists anymore.
Yeah, that's all gone now.
We're still learning a new website, so getting it.
Well, we have a new website that will be up and running in the next month or so. So, what, do you,
I'm elementary.
I know you're not, but you know people in elementary.
I'm elementary, I'm Lossley. Really, ours is more last minute kind of issues with subs. We don't really have issues with subs at my school, but issues that I hear are like at Sawgrass, where they won't go to Sawgrass. So on any given day, you could have, let's say 3 people in 4th grade out for a conference or for a training, and you can't get subs, well, where do all of those kids go? And they have to divide and conquer a lot. So I think it is also based on where you're at, because there's times even in May, you can't get a sub. You cannot get a sub because everybody's out. So I think that's the issues we face. I think ours are a little bit different at my school.
So is the issue that there's not enough subs? Has anything been done to try to recruit more subs? Like, does every individual school try to? I know at our school, we would literally, when we had open house, we used to talk to the parents and say, by the way, are any of you interested in being a substitute teacher? Just
Well, I
see if
know,
you can get more people to be in that pool.
I know at our school, the subs want to be there if they know, they said this is one of the schools they want to go to. But I know that there are some subs that we have on our list at our school, and they say, I'm never going to that school. Yeah. You won't believe the stuff we hear.
And they do that a lot.
We process them as fast as we can. We're constantly processing subs, because basically, we'll have so many applicants that we can't process them fast enough. So we'll process them as quick as we can. We also prioritize the list. If they're agreed or have expressed an eagerness to get into a specific situation, I mean, we don't hold those people back in it, so we pay a lot of attention to that. And if you ever see the sub posting close, people will be like, well, how they gonna have subs, but they don't have the posting open? It's because we've got a backlog we're processing, and as soon as we get the backlog, boom, it's right back up posted.
Okay, so that's not the problem.
But it's to be honest with you, it's just it's a high demand.
So high demand, and you're talking about somebody that, okay, who wants to go, and I'll say it too, I mean, you're out all day at PE, you really want to be outside all day at 95-degree weather. A substitute's going to pick and choose. For $90, am I going to be out there? Do I want to do that? They're going to pick and choose. Do I want to go, unfortunately, and I'm going to say, do I want to go into PE, music, ESE classroom? Do I want to do that? They're going to be picky, some of them, because they're saying,
And they
it's
can
not
be.
worth the $90.
They can be.
I
And
think
that's what they
that
do.
you need to look at the areas where you're having trouble getting
That's
subs
what
and
they do.
incentivize those people somehow. If it's too far to drive, throw them $10 or a gift certificate or something. But to get them out there, or if they're PE, and my son's a PE teacher, so I can relate to that. Give them something for it, even if it's free lunch or something. But to divide your kids up 3 at a time in 8 or 9 different classes, they're not learning anything. They may come with some paperwork, but they're either going to be paying attention to what's going on
And the only
or
thing that I'm
not.
going to say, like, we need to write them up, I mean, yes, sometimes it does work, but when the superintendent and everybody else, when we're trying to be more in collaborative grouping, that messes up your collaborative grouping all the time, because you don't know those students. So those students come into you, and sometimes some may know them because you're in the elementary setting. But when you had 3 or 4 kids in there, it messes up. If you have, for example, Kagan groups, and you've got your groups all set, it messes that up. Now granted, that's only for a day, it's only for a certain time, but if you had something planned special for that day, and you were gonna be that, then I can't do that, I gotta go switch to something else.
Well, I don't, but some of those things, I'm not sure. If we're erring on the side of the child, then to me, it's valuable to have that child in front of the teacher and that teacher adapting their instructional plans for that day. It's not, most teachers you talk to can figure out how to manage those 3 extra kids and whatever they got planned. So, but a classroom of 18 of them sitting with a sub, and that's what most elementary school teachers I've talked to will say is, I'd rather have my colleague who I've been collaborative playing with absorb my kids because I know they're going to absorb for me next week, you know, and so I think you're on the right path.
The culture.
Is there a way, since we're saving sub money by absorbing them, can we do a extra stipend for that teacher who's absorbing a percentage of sub money that's being saved?
I think those are areas we can look at as we're brainstorming and looking at ways to incentivize.
Or look at those schools that if you do have it, repeat offenders like the South Lake County School, okay, something else has to give for those teachers. That's not fair to them. You know, I don't know, it's not every school in the county, but it's, I think it does happen.
Yeah, there's certain.
It's happened a lot.
Well, and that, we're gonna talk with administrators a little bit too, to make sure people are being held accountable for, if there's a few teachers that are making life rough on the majority by doing a lot of unnecessary late call-ins, make sure we're holding people accountable, or just hold them honest, you know? And it's, because you're right, a few people can make it difficult on others, and we've talked a lot, when we're going full book, about what's deemed an emergency. And it's like, well, not, you know, whether you think it's an emergency or not, if kids can be covered. And, you know, I think we all float around different ideas with that, but you better believe when that person called in last minute, they called it an emergency. Yeah.
Everybody has a different definition of
Yeah,
what an emergency is.
so I think
They're not in the classroom.
somebody's taking on the responsibility, so we need to make sure they're incentivized.
Chuck, is there anything about, that when a substitute makes a commitment to take a job and then they switch?
When that
If they
Yeah.
cancel a job, they cannot take another job for another 24 hours.
Are you talking within the school, they move the subs around? Because that
I'm
happens.
saying if they use ASOP and they cancel a job, they cannot accept another job in ASOP. They cannot do it themselves. Now, if the schools are circumventing that process, then I don't
There's
have
the
control
issue.
over that.
Can
But
they circumvent?
Okay.
the system does not allow a sub to take another.
Because a lot of times what will
The
happen.
subs are put in and then they switch, I really need you in this place instead of that.
I think you're talking two different issues. You're saying if I took a job and I cancel it, I can't go back into
I
ASOP.
think most of your principals are, I mean, to me, safety's got to come into mind first, but I haven't heard of, you know, I'm trying to imagine where I could see some of that happening, like if you had a PE class out. I haven't taught PE for 1 year in my life. Won't ever do that again. I had a class I essentially absorbed as a first year teacher the whole year because I had a guy out on different placement. So I've lived it, and that's tough, middle school.
And in that case, you may not be able to get another teacher, so if you have to do that, but you can put, 2 TAs in there with another teacher, so that at least you have 3 adults that would load the book.
And that becomes the other issue, is TAs as substitutes, is that,
I mean, they're working.
but I'm just saying,
Unfortunately, they're not, our kids lose out.
that's the,
Our kids are the ones that lose out then.
Right.
And so, in any of those decisions, and it just makes a difference as far as what the position is, how many is it gonna be, how long is it gonna be, those kinds of things. And, you try to make the best decisions to make sure that it doesn't have to impact the students' learning as much as you can for that day. And sometimes it's a 2-hour block. This person's gonna sub for 2 hours, then this person's gonna sub for 2 hours. I mean, they may have 3 different people in a day, but it just works out. Your math coach may go in, your CRT may go in, your assistant principal may go in. It just depends.
In some schools.
Well, and I think that's big too, is that that we do have a variety of people that got skin in the game at the school. I I get it that you can't always push an administrator in the sub. But, you know, if other people are pulling weight and covering some of these things when they have to be covered, it feels like.
Even if it's only for an hour at a time, they can go in there, you know, not all day, I trust it.
Or if they're too busy, you know.
But teachers are busy too, they could go in for an hour and say, hey, I'm.
It depends, I'm not sure if that's the best thing for kids to have 3 different people in there that day, but. Correct. You do what you have to do. I mean,
We'll continue to tackle the issue and we'll offer some data.
As parents, do you have any input on this? What do you think?
About this particular.
Or grandparents? Yeah.
I mean, we're from such a small county that we did not face a enormity of what your situation is. Like I said, I don't think it's a bad idea to try to recruit parents in the community to be on your sub list. I don't like, I know coming from our daughter's perspective, she told me that some, at her particular school, they will sometimes take a special ed education person and put them in for the day. I already know those people are overloaded as it is. I don't understand, and then they don't get compensated for that, so that sort of didn't fly well with me.
And then they can't meet the IEP.
I guess when I hear something about an entire class going in, how do you accommodate? I was a teacher. How do you accommodate an entire class in your classroom?
Have you absorbed entire class
Oh, yeah.
in your classroom?
Oh, I have as a teacher.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, as a teacher I have. When you have to, you do what you have to do. But especially if let's say I'm a team teacher, and my team teacher all of a sudden has an emergency, needs to go home, I'm taking the whole class. I am not going to siphon those kids out. I know the kids, I know their transportation, but I'm not gonna get a whole lot done that day either.
So the
So,
kid loses.
the kid does lose, yes. But they're safe. I know them, and they're gonna get home on the right bus or mode of transportation or whatever it might be. But
I'm thinking even physically, like do they sit on the
oh, on the
floor?
floor, you sit anywhere there's a space, sit on the floor, sit at open chairs, anywhere.
Being from middle
Yeah.
school, that to me would be like.
And it's hard. I was 45 grade strong up in the corner somewhere. It's harder when they get to the older grades because they're bigger.
yeah.
And they have a lot more women bigger.
But that's why
Yeah.
that's why we talk more about the elementary, because that's where they, most of the time, that's where they
Right.
put the kids into another classroom versus middle and high school, they're,
Right.
but then again, a lot of times they're asking the same people to go in and, oh, well, this one's gone again, so we need you to go in there again. Well, then it's the same people that are covering instead of doing that equitability among everybody.
And there's where having the building rep working with the leadership team on how the equitable flotation of planning periods, of those sorts of things actually happen. If that's working or if that's happening.
Well, ours is a voluntary basis. They'll send out a mass email, you know, this person is gone, we need coverage for this period. And a lot of teachers will split it up. But until they get a sub in.
I think the bonus for attendance would be really good.
I think we would see
It
it.
worked very well. They took care of the problem years ago.
I think.
Even if you had like a tier, if you had, you know, I'm gonna put out a number here. Okay, you get $500 if you're there, you know, every day. You get $300 if you're there, you know, if you only miss 2 days or 1 day, whatever. So I mean, like, 'cause sometimes there are emergencies, especially with, you've got kids, you've got whatever, you know, and it's like, I really have to go with it, but do I really stay home because I don't want that other money? But there might be a tier thing possibly, I don't know, but.
I think we have to be very mindful of how that's how that's messaged and organized, because a majority of the people in your world are gonna be like, you're getting paid a bonus to come to your job. Huh? They're not gonna understand that. So I think we need to look, we're probably gonna have to dive in a little more creatively than just a straight bonus for showing up to work,
We
so.
talked about buying.
We did that in our district. You got one sick day if you came every day, you didn't miss a day. We had one teacher in the whole district that got a bonus. So I mean, it's not that effective. I agree with what you're saying. Split it up a little, have a couple tiers in there. And yeah, you're supposed to be there, but you know, you can't always be there. Things come up.
Say it is to help the substituting and help keep your own plan times or something.
Yeah. So that's what, we're gonna have to get creative, but we got the ball rolling, right? We're thinking about it.
Idea.
Do you guys wanna go ahead and throw some dates out?
Yeah, let's do it. And they're filling up fast.
Yes, they are. So my calendar.
Next Saturday?
I'm out next week.
How's everything else?
How's
that night.
the 25th, which is a Thursday, look for you guys?
If it's in the afternoon, I can, I'm at a yearbook training camp, but that'll end up in the morning of the 25th, so I can drive in.
And I think like as I sat here, I've seen some emails roll in, and I want to make sure for the sake of some of this, being able to address Beverly Shores and some of these, you're not available on that?
I have the first foundations course for your new second year people.
Hey.
What about,
You have the Wednesday, the 24th?
I could do the 24th.
The day before?
We do 24th.
Yeah, that'll work. That'll give me some time. My focus is going to be really on working on the DA issues and helping work on that stuff. So time is of the essence for that.
24th?
Yes,
Okay then.
3 o'clock at our place?
that works.
Saturday.
Is that on the calendar?
Can you repeat that, David? 3 o'clock, the 24th, LCEA.
So the 24th, so that's a Wednesday?
Yes.
24th, LCEA. 3 o'clock.
Okay. You're on the calendar. And then, yeah, we'll have another date, just to have one ready.
This is when it gets into, I need my teachers and my principals to weigh in. And that's less about our world.
Sure, why not?
You okay with those? Because then you got first week of school and pre-plan, which is kind of difficult for teachers and principals. Which means then you're looking at the 21st.
First is fine.
You'd rather stay out of this week.
So what if we went all the way to the 21st, because you've got teachers for pre-plan plus the first week of school, which neither one of those weeks are probably good for teachers or principals.
I like that.
I think
And
it's-
plus, that's gonna leave me a little time. I'm probably gonna have to sit with SEIU on some of that, and that'll give me some weeks in between I can get with SEIU, which are less impacted by
first week of school and stuff.
So you're saying August the 21st? And we'll be here?
We can meet at LCA for that.
Either
I
way,
mean, we're good.
either way.
Let's rotate back here on the
Okay.
21st, so we keep it rotated.
All right.
The one here?
Wednesday, the 21st.
Then our time changes again then.
It would have to be 3:30 or 4.
Yeah.
Which,
We usually, what were we doing for
3:30.
3:30?
Can we do 3:30?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think so.
Cool.
Cool.
My life didn't plan beyond that. Stuart, are you good to sign the MOUs today on insurance?
Somebody said they wanted to look at it and check back with some of their people. I'm going to let them have the time to go back and review, and I can come in sometime this week or next week,
Okay.
because we got a little time, but I can come in next week if nothing else.
Okay.
You're not here next week, right?
I'm out, but I can have my.
Well, give me a
copies
chance to visit with Gail and talk about you behind your back.
I think we're going to be waiting. Hey, y'all talk good, I'm not worried about that.
In the front of me,